Tansei, welcome back to Métis Minute, your source for Métis news in Region 7. Welcome back to Métis Minute. I am your host, Samantha Loney, and yes, the breaking news is that I do have new glasses. But more importantly, in Métis news for Region 7 is the Metis Nation of Ontario's 31st Annual General Assembly. This assembly was a chance for citizens and Metis Nation of Ontario leaders to come together to discuss the state of the Metis Nation, as well as celebrate our Metis culture. Simcoe Community Media was at the meeting, and we have information to bring to citizens who weren't able to attend the assembly or were there and would love to relive the magical experience of the Metis Nation of Ontario's Annual General Assembly. We were able to capture many moments from the MNO's AGA, one of which was Kushkapai's art exhibit, which was the largest Métis art exhibit in Ontario, possibly the nation and the world. We'll have to fact check that for you later, but we did want to take a moment later on in this episode to cover some of the artists at the exhibit, which were over 30 Métis citizens. For those of you not interested in art and interested in the politics of the Métis Nation of Ontario, we do have footage of Margaret Froh and her speech to address Métis citizens in these divisive times. But before we get to the speeches from all the local politicians who showed up in support of the Métis Nation of Ontario, I wanted to dive into the theme of this year's AGA. One of the themes of the Métis Nation of Ontario's Annual General Assembly was storytelling. As you will see from Margaret Froh's speech, there was a lot of talk of telling our stories. There was even a presentation on telling our stories, which allowed the team behind Ontario Métis Facts to help share how telling our stories is going to help propel us into the future. I can't explain why it has taken the Métis Nation of Ontario this long to get information out to its citizens, but the Métis Nation of Ontario handed out booklets on the MNC Expert Panel Report, which featured stories from the historic Métis communities across Ontario. Whether your family is from Northwestern Ontario, the Upper Great Lakes, Moose Factory, or the Ottawa River, we are happy to announce that there are booklets available for you to pick up from the MNO so you can learn more about your community. We know that knowledge is power, so we hope you're able to reach out to your local community council or the MNO itself and see how you can get your hands on these booklets if you weren't able to attend the AGA. Now, moving on to the actual AGA, we wanted to put together some footage of culture, as well as that speech we mentioned from Margaret Froh herself. But Margaret Froh wasn't the only one standing up and defending the Métis Nation of Ontario. We were also welcomed by the Penetanguishene Mayor, the MP of Simcoe North, and MNO citizen Adam Chambers. And of course, the Lieutenant Governor Edith Dumont.
So 2023 marked, it was an important year for us. We marked the 20th anniversary of the Pally decision, a groundbreaking watershed Métis rights case that finally put the question around the existence of Métis and our rights to rest. I want to acknowledge that we're marking 21 years of the Pally decision this year. Last year we also marked 30 years since the formation of the Metis Nation of Ontario to be that distinct voice for Métis rights in this province. And last year also we marked the 40th anniversary of the forming of the Metis National Council. And we're fortunate to have people like Tony and others here that have been a part of that movement for advancing Métis rights nationally for much more than 30 years. And I want to acknowledge our historic Métis communities in Ontario that have been actively pushing for recognition of Métis rights, arguably for the last 200 years. The people of this land, we were just chatting with her on earlier today about that Drummond Island migration and the community here. And in fact, the community here were the very first Métis community to petition the Crown to demand respect for Métis rights. That standing up for Métis rights started here. We saw it again in the Sault Ste. Marie area in the mid-1800s when the Métis stood with First Nations, whirled a cannon, and shut down a copper mine to say, these are our lands. Canada, you need to step back and respect that. That's actually worth a round of applause. Of course, pouring a cannon, shutting down a mine got Canada's attention, and they sent out a treaty commissioner, William Robinson, not the one who went into space, who came to treat with the First Nations but turned away Métis leaders at the treaty table. Said, I don't have a mandate to deal with you, but we'll protect, don't worry, we'll protect your Métis, your Verlots here. Of course, a promise that was never fulfilled. And in fact, over the course of about a decade, a vibrant Métis village in what is now Sault Ste. Marie was reduced to just a couple of Métis families, with all of those Métis families being pushed off their lands out into the margins, some of whom ended up out on Crown land in an area called Agua Bay, where in the 1960s, the province sent out officials from MNO to tell them to move off this land, we want to expand our park, and they burned down that Métis village. That story of Métis standing up, resistance, resilience, standing up against injustice, standing up against the land, is a quintessential Métis story. And I want to acknowledge that just a couple of weeks ago we lost one of our elders that knew that story, Dolores Pinder, who remembered as a child when her village was burnt down by provincial officials. That story is a story that unites Métis across the Métis Nation homeland. This year, 2024, we mark actually the 20th anniversary of the very first ever Métis harvesting agreement negotiated between the Métis government and the provincial government. And I want to acknowledge Tony Belcourt and all of our leaders that were there at the time, doing that hard work on the hills of Powell to secure recognition of Métis rights in this province. Thank you, Tony. So this year we mark 20 years since that historic, again, Metis Nation of Ontario in the forefront, leading when it comes to advancing rights. That was the first ever Métis harvest agreement. And if you haven't already, please watch that Powley documentary that Indigenous Geographic launched last fall. And you can actually see as part of that film the announcement by President Belcourt and others of that harvesting agreement and how it was celebrated by the Métis, by First Nations, and by the province here in Ontario. On the heels of that landmark anniversary, we must recommit to preserving the Métis way of life and to set the tone for our future. This anniversary also reminds us of the strength and resilience of our communities, and it's our responsibility to ensure that those values continue to thrive for future generations. Over the course of the last 2 days, I've been speaking to a lot of our citizens. We, as I said, just concluded the youth conference this morning. We had a youth and wise ones gathering this afternoon that focused on talking about our relationship to the water. We had our Two-Spirit Council meet this morning, our Veterans Council meet this morning. Our Women's Council will be meeting with the student meet to hold their AGM. And tomorrow we're going to be starting off our 31st Annual General Assembly. And the theme for this year is revitalizing our stories, telling our stories. Our citizens in Assembly last August, set that direction for us. And this spring, with the election of the new Provisional Council of the MNO, we've reaffirmed that as a key strategic priority for the Metis Nation of Ontario in the coming years. We will be continuing to invest in that work of gathering our stories, sharing them with the public, sharing them with our communities, and really challenging all of our citizens to find themselves in that story, to find the story of their families within that broader narrative of Métis communities in Ontario. We've done a lot of work to tell those stories, and I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to check out OntarioMétisFacts.com, where we're taking those stories, putting them out there in an accessible way, in the hopes that people will listen, that they'll watch, that they'll share, and that they'll take those stories and further embellish that, breathe life into those with the stories of our communities and their families and how we all fit into this beautiful mosaic, really, that is a diverse but absolutely distinct and vibrant Métis nation and Métis communities here within Ontario. Those stories that we're focusing on sharing, that's the foundation for everything that we do. It's the foundation for our communities, for our assertion of Métis rights. It's the foundation for the work we do to share and preserve and celebrate Métis culture and our histories. It's the reason we're recognized as an Indigenous people in this country, and it will be the foundation for us to continue on this path of being recognized as a fully self-determining Métis people here in Ontario. So welcome to our annual General Assembly. I hope that you take advantage of the opportunity over the next few days to reconnect with old friends, to make some new friends, to forge new relationships, learn those stories, strengthen our collective bond as the Metis Nation of Ontario, strengthen the collective bond as strong, vibrant Métis communities within Ontario. There's going to be activities, there's going to be workshops, there's going to be updates that are provided. Her Honor this evening asked me if at our assemblies if there's opportunities for citizens to ask questions, and I kind of chuckled. Because what people don't really know about us as Métis people is that incredibly long tradition of oral advocacy, of gathering in assembly, of saying exactly what is on our minds, of vigorous debate, which I think is hardcore wired into our DNA as Métis, and that is not permission, Deanne Kilby, for any nonsense out of this AGA. Where is Deanne? I like teasing her. But we are an outspoken people. We saw that in those petitions starting in the early 1800s. We see it in the work that we do today. We see it in the work of that youth council that met over the last 2 days, working with young people, hosting workshops, sharing knowledge with our knowledge holders about the lands and the waters. I heard an excellent presentation this morning about working with traditional medicines. There's so much knowledge there that our young people are soaking up. They are hungry, and they are, I'm very proud to say, excited about it and celebrating it. And to me, when I think about the progress that we've made, and I look at our young people, I can tell you, we have already succeeded achieving the dreams of our ancestors. We are a strong people. This is a strong nation of Ontario. So in the spirit of that commitment to Métis democracy, to our unique Métis governance, say we only make progress when you share your voice, where you when you participate. And here at our assembly, the work that comes on the heels of this assembly, in that work that we're going to be undertaking all together in building our constitution over the coming months and years, I urge each of you to actively participate. Be a part of that. Bring your whole being to that. Bring your excitement to that. Bring your family along to be a part of that. Let's use this as an opportunity to strengthen our bonds, to deepen our understanding of our shared history, and to take decisive steps forward, action, toward preserving and advancing the Métis way of life. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful assembly, and I'm looking forward to an evening of visiting, of music, of food, and I want to say to all of you, bienvenue à l'Assemblée annuelle de la Metis Nation of Ontario. Welcome to the MNO's 31st Annual General Assembly. Merci.
I'm a francophone, it's true. This is why I need to look at my notes when I speak. But I want you to know that I am connected with you with my heart. Believe me on this one. Merci de votre invitation. Je suis très heureuse de me joindre à vous pour célébrer le dynamisme de la nation métisse de l'Ontario. And what a better way to start than arriving in a canoe, paddling in friendship. I have felt that sense of friendship since the beginning of my mandate as Lieutenant Governor. One of my first official events was a flag-raising ceremony for Louis Riel Day. Then, at the opening of the Canoe Museum in Peterborough, I met again President Fro, and we paddled together. Today, I am again in a canoe with President Fro. At this rate, we'll be starting a canoe club very soon. I'm grateful for the warmth you have extended to me and for the opportunity to learn more about the Metis Nation of Ontario. It's clear that the Metis have greatly enriched the cultural fabric of our province. Your stories, traditions, and vibrant spirit have added depth and beauty to our shared history. Je suis inspiré par votre engagement à protéger et transmettre vos traditions et aussi votre langue. La langue est au cœur de notre identité, elle est donc essentielle pour préserver les traditions. Alors je vous invite, vous comme moi, à protéger votre langue. As I travel across the province as Lieutenant Governor, I am excited to connect with Metis communities around Ontario, learning more about your history, culture, and mostly your important contributions. In the meantime, I want to wish you a productive and fruitful assembly as we paddle together in friendship today, tomorrow, and the years to come. I look forward to joining you on many more journeys. And I will finish with something that you just said. You said that your team was revitalizing your stories. It means for me now, listening to your stories. Merci.
It was a very important moment for me paddling in the canoes. My mother's side ancestors were part of one of the Drummond Island immigrations to this area years ago. So that was a very nice moment to share with President Fro, Your Honor. I wasn't really great at the time, but you made me feel great, so thank you very much. It was just really nice to be here, paddling in friendship, as we say. I know you're kicking off a couple days of meetings. I've enjoyed a wonderful working relationship with President Fro and with the Georgian Bay Métis Council with Greg. Just looking forward to meeting you all here this evening, welcoming you, wishing you a wonderful weekend of meetings, very productive, collaborative, and looking forward to working with you in the future as we know there's many things ahead that we can collaborate on together. Well,
thank you, President Fro, Your Honor, for welcoming you to our beautiful community, for picking Penetanguishene for your annual General Assembly. We're honored that you picked our community, and we hope we meet your expectations. We have a strong history of welcoming people of multiple faiths, cultures, identity, and we love to bring people together. I think the spirit of everything we've talked about so far tonight is about consultation, collaboration, and Your Honor, you said it best, listening. And I think we have to do a better job of that. I know me and my council, we are committed to doing just that. Adam, you said it best. Simply North is the best. South Georgian Bay with Midland, Penetanguishene, Tiny T, and my peers. We are in God's country. Thank you again for picking this tremendous part. I'm looking forward to learning and hearing and being part of all the great things that will come from this annual assembly. I think there's a lot of learning, but I think there's a lot of celebration. And there's so many great things that's happening, and this is a celebration of you and your tremendous work. I know here in Georgian Bay, under Greg Garrett's leadership, it's been tremendous partnership, and I'm looking forward to even building more and stronger partnerships. So thank you to you. This is truly a celebration to you. Again, thanks for welcoming me. This is a tremendous honor for being here. Thank you.
As we mentioned, there was also the art exhibit at the MNO's AGA, and we would like to thank the over 30 plus Métis citizens who lugged their art all the way down to Discovery Harbour. It was certainly a treat for myself to come in and see our culture be celebrated. We know that art is culture, and what is a nation without its artists and culture? We wanted to bring you a few of the speeches and highlights from this art exhibit. Today, we will just be giving you a sneak peek, but make sure to check back to find more of this event.
Hi, my name's Chloe. This is the art I do. I do acrylic. I do acrylics, watercolor, and pastels. I just started painting only in January, and this is my first ever art show. This is my my second ever painting I've made before. Trying to learn how to do people, trees, and northern lights.
My name is Monica Ironside. I'm a Métis local impressionist artist. As you can see, I love to paint Georgian Bay. We live in God's land. I'm feeling so fortunate and blessed to be here amongst other Métis artists this weekend. I'm learning so much about our culture. We really need to share this with our children for future generations. So this is the Bay Studio Tour is a local artist exhibit. We are over 30 artists, all local. Some of us Métis, some of us probably are and haven't researched, but we are all so diverse in what we do. There's potters, there's painters, there's sculptors, jewelry makers. If you get a chance to come out to the tour, you'll see some beautiful, beautiful local art. October 5th and 6th from 10 till 5. We hope to see you there.
Well, hello, my name is Morgan McDonald. I go by Alyssa Leherendel as my artist name. And I'd like to show you a little bit of the stuff that I brought today to the Discovery Harbour art exhibit. I brought some leatherwork mitts that I had created, some leathers that we had done. This right here is extremely soft, very bendy and twisty, whereas this is much sturdier. And the difference between the two is one is doe skin and the other is buckskin. It's not just the thickness that's different, it's the way that we can punch the holes. And while a lot of folks use specialized hole punches, I actually use Glover needles just with my hands. These are Glover needles, these are beading needles, and they're slightly different. In our communities, we use different kinds of needles to create different kinds of punctures that can be used for different things. If I wanted to create, for example, a pair of mitts that could withstand like the winters and roughage around like doing logging and stuff, which is the majority of what my community had to do in order to kind of self-sustain, then we would have to use more sturdy needles that we knew wouldn't break in the woods. So Glover needles are extremely important. At the same time, to make up for the fact that the larger holes had been created, we would have to create things like rabbit skin glues. So when we would create rabbit skin glues, it would be a very time-consuming process, but it was very artistic for us. So every single piece of this glove here was made by community, right down to the actual glue that holds it all together. I provided a couple of pieces of the leather itself before it had been stitched together to give some examples of how it would look before we put it together like a puzzle. And we offered a couple of examples of local First Nations pieces of leather skins that they had done specifically to show kind of, here's what some of the different chemical tanning that have been adopted by local communities, and here's some of the more traditional work that we do in the Métis community right now. Because I figured they would do much better at representing themselves in their own art and their own traditions, and I didn't think it was fair for me to try and take that place. So, one of the traditions that my family specifically does carry is the whitefish scale art, which I did learn in Alberta, and reindeer tufting, which is another thing I learned in Alberta. I made the mistake of telling a little boy at one point with his mother that he could squish it as hard as he could. He decided to drop it off the ground and stomp on it. It was perfectly fine afterwards, still puffed up just as much as before. Didn't need steaming, didn't need anything. We would use these little tiny puffballs as buttons because they would stay very big and then they wouldn't be dyed by most things, or bothered by most things in the woods. But you could dye them with many things. So another thing that we do in our community is actually good luck charms or gifts that we would give to our community. Something that I would give to one of the harvesters in our community is a turkey feather. We chose turkey specifically because of multiple stories in multiple different communities about being carriers, gift givers, and providers for the nation. And the nation being Métis Nation, not a First Nation in this particular instance. I had to take a string from my mother's family, even though she is not herself Native, so I used white and red in this case because she is Canadian. I took a crow feather which had been gifted to me, and I wrapped it 3 different times in lightning bolt patterns, woven together in a braid over top of the crow feather in order to provide good luck in listening in the woods. So this is another art form for us, as well as it is a cultural continuance and a teaching of story. So in this instance, if somebody were to hear something in the woods while they're harvesting and carrying this traditional feather, they'd have good luck, they would have good hearing so that they wouldn't make a mistake, and then they would have protection from their mother. The final part that we would put onto this, besides the beaded decoration, which is just for fun, we would have copper wrapping or string wrapping over top of the leather from the specific animal that we had hunted just prior. So this here is actually also more leather from this, and you can see the coloration difference because this has sat in a UV protected space, and this has come with me all over the place. So it's changed its coloration from a lighter color to a much, much darker one. Those are just a few of the different pieces that I brought with me for physical touch at this exhibit, because I felt like it was important for people to have the chance to touch things, feel things, and engage with them fully. But when it came to awakening specifically as a topic, I thought that Wajdash was probably our best bet for that. This is the moment before and the moment after the great sacrifice that the Wajdash or muskrat gave. So when Anonkwe asked for all of the animals to go and attempt to go down to the bottom of the water in Aki, to get through the Nibi or the water and pull back up the mud a tiny smidge of Aki, just so that they could plant some plants to feed Anonkwe so that her new baby coming would be protected from death. She would be protected from starvation. When he sacrificed himself, it was the moment of death that gave him this great awakening, this great change. He went from holding on as tightly as he could to remembering that just before he had attempted to go down to the bottom, his friend Amek had hurt Kukumekanak with his scratching and scrabble to get back on top, which is why you see the scoots and scrape marks. So Amek, or Beaver, unfortunately had hurt her in a slight way, not on purpose. And he did not want to accomplish the same thing. So he let go and gave up just moments before, recognizing that if he just held that breath a little longer, it would carry him to the surface like a bubble. So you'll notice there are no bubbles around him whatsoever, because he did not give up the air and he did not give up the earth, but he did give up his life. So when Anonkwe pulled him out of the water like a baby, pulling him up, she looked around and recognized nobody else had given up that much of a sacrifice for her or for them, because all of them together had to come together to try and protect this space that they had in the middle of a water world at the time. When the great sacrifice was completed, Amek offered to try and help bury him under that little bit of mud. And when they recognized there was only a tiny smidgen left of that mud, Amek said, "No, don't worry, it won't work." And so Anonkwe laid down this beautiful little creature who had given up his life for them, and and she sprinkled the earth on top of him, and Amek came over and flattened out that earth so that it could be spread around, and as it spread, so too did Turtle Island, and we now stand on the land that was made through his sacrifice.
We are the culture. Without culture, there is no community, okay? So it's an uphill battle. I get that. I can fight in the battle. And I'm so encouraged that so many people are joining and celebrating what we're doing, and we are going to grow. This is growing, and we're going to take this to the national level within the Metis Nation of Ontario to exhibit nationally. We're trying to get it back to the Tosh next year, and we're working on the Indigenous Games in Vancouver with Prince Harry next year. The theme is Indigenous, so we need to be there. Okay, and Mr. Belcourt is a huge activist for us, and him and I are working together on Back to the Tosh exhibit and the Prince Harry's Indigenous Games. Okay, so with that, I'm not saying everyone's going to be shipped to Vancouver to exhibit, but some of you will. Okay, so it's a process of growing with us, and the more you exhibit, the more experience you get, the more you'll be able to attend higher level exhibits. There is an exhibit coming up in Ottawa, or El Monte, on September the 30th, Mr. Belcourt is curating the event at the Mississippi Valley Textile Museum. It's going to be a huge gala event. It's not just the artists, there's an Indigenous artist on there too, there's performing artists, Amanda Rayu, she's performing there. Christy Belcourt's, I'm not sure if she's coming, but she's donating original prints to be raffled off for our greater community. So that's just wonderful that these people are helping us out. And so I encourage you not to be shy. I encourage you to be proud of what you're doing and put yourself forward. You know, like don't sit in the corners like most of us artists are timid and sensitive, and you know, I get it. I'm a little outbound, but anyhow, I'm just so encouraged by what you're all doing. And I'd like to congratulate Christy Cameron and her family. Four members of her family exhibited here this weekend.
Yes.
That's incredible.
You guys are amazing.
As we mentioned earlier, we will have a full video about the Kushkapai art exhibit at this year's AGA coming up later in the week, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But we did want to leave you with one last thought. It's clear that the MNO has taken some missteps with the rolling out of Bill C-53 and misjudged the anger that would be coming from the Chiefs of Ontario. We wanted to allow you to hear the words from Margaret herself and provide some reassurance that although the MNO made missteps in the past, they are working toward building a better relationship with our First Nations cousins in the future.
The Six Nations City Council sent us a letter expressing their concern over an MNO office in their territory in Brantford. That office, of course, exists to deliver essential health and education services to our citizens living in that region. It has nothing to do with land rights decisions. So we, our leadership, responded to Six Nations in writing, explaining to them that the MNO does not assert any rights within their traditional territory, but our citizens living in Six Nations territory do so as guests. And after we sent that letter to Six Nations, we thought other First Nations in those areas would have similar questions, so we sent similar letters to First Nations in our southern areas, those regions situated in the areas. Because there were no historic communities in that part of Ontario who do not assert any rights. Our message, though, does not fit into the false narrative that the Chiefs of Ontario have been pushing about us. The Chiefs of Ontario response was to say that we were disingenuous and that we were being disruptive. Nothing could have been farther from the truth. But we will persevere. Those relationships are important to us. They were important to us historically, and they're important today. And while we focused over the last 20 years on implementing talent and doing our work internally to advance our rights, self-government, really we should have been doing more to maintain and build those relationships with First Nation leaders. We'll continue to reach out, and we'll continue to do that work to rebuild relationships one by one. That includes work to try and build a bridge with the Chiefs of Ontario, and we continue to send letters to the new regional chief, to chiefs that have been appointed in really significant roles in Ontario, to congratulate them and to invite dialogue. And we're going to continue to extend that hand of peace and friendship and diplomacy. This work of Metis diplomacy is our collective responsibility. Overcoming the misinformation out there that is being spread about the Metis Nation of Ontario and the communities that we represent, that really is our collective battle. We all need to stand up to defend our Métis identity. This has been a difficult time for Métis people right across the Métis Nation homeland, especially here in Ontario. I know that the false claims and the hurtful statements made about us in the media are having a deep impact. I hear time and time again, especially from our young people, how concerned they are about that state of affairs. Standing together with strength, with unity, standing with integrity and clarity of purpose is the only path forward. With the lies that are being spread about our history, it's important for us all to be educated. To be educated about our community's history, our own family's history, how our family history fits into those broader community stories.
Merci for watching. We hope you enjoyed our video from the 31st Annual Métis General Assembly. And since this year's AGA was all about storytelling, we want to remind you that at the Barrie South Simcoe Métis Council office, we will be having a workshop on podcasting and media training for MNO citizens of any catchment area. You don't have to reside in the Barrie area to be a part of this workshop. You don't even have to be an MNO citizen. We want you, if you are watching and interested in telling authentic stories, to come down to this workshop and see how we have been making an impact in the community. I was overwhelmed at this year's AGA with the amount of people who came up to me and told me how hearing their stories, unbiased and unfiltered to them, had made an impact in their life. I was also given many gifts, so merci to the people who had shared those with me. If you would like to learn more about what we are doing at Métis Minute and Simcoe Community Media, please feel free to come down to the Barrie South Simcoe Council office at 64 Cedar Point Drive, Unit 1401, August 24th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. And I know what you're thinking, that is lunchtime, and do not worry, we will have food, snacks, and drinks available for you. We just want you to be able to come down and learn about how you could share your story either with us, or you can go off and create your own podcast and share your story. That is what is so important, is you getting to share your story the way you want to share it. Merci for watching, and we'll see you August 24th or down the river.
Oh, my dear, did you mend the net? Did you pass the plate? Oh, it's all in your book, you won't have to play. Wash 'em in the water, fry 'em in the pan, to go up as ways a little in hand. Wash 'em in the water, fry 'em in the pan, to go up as ways a little in hand. Now where are you gonna sit next today? Around my hope back to Bedford Bay. We got it.